Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Skyrim. At least not the Skyrim that you might remember. After beating Skyrim for the first time in my entire life last week, I made a promise to myself. That promise being once I finally beat Alduin and beat the game, I would immediately delete all of my save progress and not continue any further with the game. So that means no more questing or involving myself with the world of Skyrim. Now some of you may ask, why exactly would I do this? And my answer is simple. While I absolutely loved my time with vanilla Skyrim, it did feel extremely dated and janky. But in addition to bugs and performance issues, some of the gameplay systems like the combat, the skill trees, dialogue, and questionable AI, along with other dated mechanics, more or less started to drag on my overall enjoyment of the game. So I had decided that once I was finished with my first ever playthrough, I would go on to Nexus Mods and begin my journey into the world of Skyrim modding. At first it was only simple changes I would implement, but then as my scope started to broaden more and more, as well as my overall enjoyment for modding the game, I ultimately came up with a 4-step plan for what my mod would encompass. Number 1. Modernize Skyrim's gameplay in a way that not only brings additions, but honors the game's original vision. Number 2. Breathe more life into the world of Skyrim by adding new NPCs, questlines, and city expansions. Number 3. Keep this mod pack as lore friendly as possible, while also expanding on the overall story and lore. And lastly, number 4. Have as few glitches as possible, and try not to break the game, which was a little more difficult than I expected. With this plan in mind, I began laying down a foundation and ultimately turned Skyrim into the RPG I've always wanted. And while it isn't anywhere near done, what I have right now is a absolutely solid foundation for the road ahead. Now, before I show you everything that's been changed and enhanced, here's some footage of me testing everything to make sure it's in working order. Since this is my first time ever modding Skyrim or using Mod Organizer, some crashes and bugs are going to be inevitable. And I've been carefully putting together and testing this mod pack for over a week at this point. And it's incredible to see the progress between changes and additions. May I present to you all, Skyrim, Legend of the Dragonborn. It's so weird looking around at the world naturally changing with each and every new mod, even if they do occasionally cause an issue that needs to be fixed later on. Frustrations aside, let's get started. So the first change I wanted to make to Skyrim would be the cities and towns. Currently as it stands in vanilla, most of the cities are lacking in variety and overall grand spectacle. The city of Winterhold and its college, for example, are prime examples. Now, in the lore, it's stated that part of Winterhold fell into the sea during a great catastrophe, and it's implied the city was vast and expansive. Yet, in vanilla, it's nothing more than a few wooden shacks and huts, with barely any debris to be found in the ocean below. The great city of Winterhold completely overhauls the city, making it feel majestic and gigantic, while also feeling dilapidated and destroyed. Parts of the city have been completely destroyed, with buildings hanging off the ledges of the glaciers overlooking the water. I've also taken the liberty to overhauling the college itself by adding in even more NPCs, changing the layouts of the rooms by adding in extra furniture, as well as the set pieces. The courtyard of the college has also received a facelift in its design. It is now much more vibrant with plenty of activity. The bridge has also been restored, remaining one of the few buildings that has yet to be damaged. Overall, these simple additions make Winterhold feel like the city it always was meant to be. For our next and arguably even more important destination is the capital of Skyrim, Solitude. Being the largest city in Skyrim, Solitude is also the merchant capital of the province. And to make it feel as such, I've added the enhanced Solitude docks, adding in a shit ton of new buildings below the city's arch and the outskirts, while also expanding the docks themselves. Another addition which I absolutely needed was the animated ships add-on. With this, you can not only see ships out in the Sea of the Ghost, but there are also ships and rowboats near the Port of Solitude and the surrounding rivers. These boats aren't just for show either. You can actually board and plunder the people and loot found on these ships, adding even more to the overall immersion. And lastly, we have the little town of Riverwood, the first main city we arrive into after the intro. Riverwood has gotten the love and attention it deserves. Not only does this town now have walls, but it is also 50% bigger with new pathways, buildings, and fishing spots. Once again, expanding upon the idea that the people of Skyrim have built prominent cities and villages all around the province. But what good is some new buildings without a retexture? Using an E&B as well as new lighting systems and retextures, every single city within the game has received a makeover in addition to new buildings, making Skyrim's art style stand out much more. The E&Bs have also allowed for NPCs I couldn't find textures and models for to look much higher quality. Hi, this is post-production. As it currently stands, I had to disable the E&Bs because they would cause my game to crash in certain areas, but that's currently under investigation for later. Anyway, back to the video. I've also taken the liberty to adding better looking grass, more trees and additional retextures, and even more wildlife to Skyrim, posing new challenges and encounters the player will get to experience. And since we are on the theme of keeping it lore friendly as possible, I've only added in creatures that have been featured in recent Elder Scrolls games, and nothing out of the ordinary. We've got variations of wolves, dogs, spiders, new types of goblins, wildebeest, boars, hogs, and all other types of animals to not only make the world feel more alive, but it also adds much needed biodiversity into the game. Along with these creatures, I was also able to overhaul how the werewolves and the vampires work, leading to more encounters throughout the world, and some additional changes that I'll get to later. This mod pack also allows for even bigger packs of wandering animals to roam around together. Instead of just the 2 or 3 you'd see, you may now see up to 5 or 6 wolves in a single pack. Goblin packs and other such things will also roam around as well, featuring some new weapons and armor you can loot off of them. But it isn't just the creatures that got a facelift. We now have new bandit types, as well as more bandits, new dragors, skeletons, and soldiers, offering even greater variety in the combat situations, with 3 new overhauls to make combat even more engaging. The first one is the Book of Shadows, a new take on stealth mechanics, adding craftable smoke bombs for quick escapes, new guards that will alert all other enemies with a war horn if they spot you, making stealth gameplay a lot more interesting, and non-lethal takedowns, allowing you to sneak up behind someone while unarmed and perform a rear naked choke. This allows for stealth to be even more engaging and rewarding, and offers additional challenges. Next up, we have comprehensive first-person animations, with some additional mods. Gone are the days of Skyrim's janky vanilla weapon animations. Now they have been replaced with higher quality animations, making the combat feel much more fluid and natural, especially paired with unbreakable and no recoil, allowing for rapid combo attacks without dealing with the hassle of enemies blocking your hits constantly. I've also taken the liberty of adding in new magic casting animations, as well as strange runes, making magic have much more of a flair to it, which goes nicely with the new spells we have added in as well. Hello everybody, this is post-production once again. After having a lot of trouble with the mod order and the loading animations, I was finally able to get For Honor in Skyrim, which completely changes the third-person combat for you and the NPCs you fight. Rather than talk about it, let me just show you. And lastly, this is going to be a combination of 3 additional enemy mods: enemy leveled zones, enemy level scaling, and the experience overhaul mod. Have you ever gotten annoyed at how in vanilla Skyrim, no matter how high of a level you are, most enemies feel like they are constantly taking everything? Enemy leveled zones and scaling now change this completely. Now enemy levels will be varied throughout the world of Skyrim and its dungeons, in a similar way to how pretty much every other modern RPG works. Certain areas will have enemies of extremely high level. An example of this would be if you're a level 10, you may have the potential to walk into a dungeon or area with enemies all the way from level 10 to level 50, making fights and encounters much more interesting and dynamic. Depending on how high of a level your enemies are when you kill them, you are rewarded appropriately with more or less XP. This also affects the type of items found within dungeons and from looting corpses, with higher quality items being found in harder dungeons. This overhaul also brings with it brand new enemies and bosses with certain dungeons, which will give you even more rewards not found within the vanilla game. And as for the experience, you now earn XP by doing quests, discovering new locations, and killing enemies and creatures. XP is no longer tied to what skills within the perk tree you're training for. Instead, you can now use what you want whenever you want, only needing to use the skill to earn higher proficiency levels, which can then be used in the completely overhauled skill tree. Gone are the simple days of reduced amount of magicka or stamina when using attacks, as there are now actually perks that offer unique benefits and playstyles for the player to use. Another addition that I absolutely love is the addition of the missives board found within every single major hold. The missives board offers new Radiant quests to partake in, which can have you either needing to deliver a weapon or a letter, with a certain amount of days to complete, or capture and or detain an NPC. These quests will have you either making short trips from villages to lumber mills, to the occasional cross-trek across the world of Skyrim. If you really want to take advantage of all the new sights and creatures, you can get a job as a courier and travel across the Providence, leading to some incredibly memorable encounters along the roads. Sometimes you'll be able to fight off thieves and goblins, and other times you'll be better off running away. You'll have no choice but to run if you do encounter people with higher level. Earlier in my playthrough, the Stormcloaks had locked down a checkpoint to lead to the city of Riften. Coming back through that same road many hours later, the entire checkpoint had been overrun by goblins. Being outnumbered 1 to 20, I was able to take out a few, but ultimately had to run off or risk dying. Two important enemy overhauls I've added were the Restless Undead and the Lawless mod. Restless Undead adds even more variations to the type of Draugr enemies you'll encounter throughout the old Nordic ruins and dungeons, while Lawless adds many new types of bandit enemies to the game, while also featuring potential bandit raids on camps throughout Skyrim. These mods also add new unique enemy bosses near the end of certain dungeons, as well as exclusive drop items unique to them. But who needs weapons when you have the greatest power of all? Dragon Shouts as well as the Dragonborn skill tree have been improved and overhauled, with cooldowns taking significantly less time than before, even more Dragon Shouts to find and collect, and all new audio sounds for shouting, as well as animations. But instead of dragon shouting, let's talk about some of the new spells for Magicka users. The roster for magic spells has been increased for every single school, with one of the biggest changes being sunlight spells for restoration, which allows you to use restoration magic to inflict damage on the undead. If you ever wanted to play as a true paladin, this is the way to go. And using the maximum destruction mod for spells, depending on what spell you use to kill an enemy, they'll either erupt in flames, shatter into a million pieces, or simply disintegrate. As far as it goes for animations, most of the combat animations have been changed for weapons, leading to the weapons feeling like they have much more impact to them, as well as the variations. As it currently stands, I have finally gotten the For Honor third-person animations mod to work, and it has completely changed gameplay for me, while sprinting, walking, and running have all had their animations changed to appear much smoother than before. This was also a requirement for another mod which I added, which adds new armors to the game, while also retexturing and remodeling the existing ones, making them appear much higher quality, and this applies to the weapons, jewelry, and the clothing as well. Using JK's mod list, I've also taken the liberty of overhauling the textures in a majority of the holds, which is especially noticeable as we head back to Solitude. But it isn't just Solitude that got a facelift, as I've also overhauled Windhelm and the town of Dawnstar, breathing a new life to these areas. Another change that I wanted was a brand new HUD and UI for the menus. Skyrim's vanilla HUD wasn't bad for a controller, but I'm not using a controller, I use keyboard and mouse, and it was not designed for that. With a simple mod, we can make it to be much more user-friendly. This also adds a new Nordic style to the inventory screen, as well as the tween menu, which still retains its vanilla layout. You may have also noticed this also applies to interacting with NPCs, which now have a more cinematic interaction camera. But let's not forget your cinematic kill cameras in combat, now using maximum carnage for even more devastation in combat. Now you can finally show those giants and other enemies who the real badass of Skyrim is, by completely chopping them to pieces. But every now and then, it's always nice to meditate when you have some free time, because who knows, there might be something worthwhile in doing so. But be careful not to meditate for too long, or you might encounter a pack of werewolves on the prowl, and God forbid you let one of them near you. After surviving the night, you may wake up in another part of the world after a night of carnage, and get to see that incredible sunrise on the horizon, letting you know the world is still as you left it, and after everything, your adventure continues into another day. Overall, this mod pack is nowhere near done, not even close. During the 2 weeks of recording, I have been non-stop modding and playing Skyrim every night after getting done with the daily grind, and yet I find it extremely difficult to put the game down for more than 5 minutes to even work on this video. Also, my mod load order is abysmal dog shit at the moment, and I'm genuinely surprised this works at all with barely any crashes, just some weird bugs here and there. I'll definitely need to reorganize once I create a version 2.0 of the mod list. And yet, just the entire premise of essentially creating your own Elder Scrolls game to be exactly the way that you, the player, want it to be, is something that so few games ever even allow happen. And while yes, there are still some absolutely ridiculous bugs that could still happen with this many different mods working off of each other, there really is no better feeling and accomplishment than getting it all to work with minimal bugs and glitches. Guys, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, as it really does motivate me to keep making videos. And stay tuned for more, as I plan on revitalizing into a 2.0 version of this mod. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.